Now let's get ready to whip up some flies.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to tie an elk-haired caddis natural. So we're going to want to take the size 12 hook that we have. We might have to make some adjustments here on the vise, but we want to get it so it's locked in here nice and tight, like so. And we're going to take our black thread, the 70-aught thread, and we're going to start specifically about 1/3 back, and we're just going to tie in the thread, wraps right next to each other, get about halfway down the shank, trim off the excess, and now we're just going to go back a couple more wraps and then we're going to stop, because what we're going to do first, there's literally 3 steps to this fly. Well, 4 if you really want to be technical. We're going to take the feather, the rooster male feather. It's going to be the hackle, nice stiff fibers. Um, we're going to do the same thing that we did when tying the woolly bugger. We're going to just grab the tip and just very gently fold back just the tips a little bit so that we have a tie-in point. And we're going to trim off about half. So we just have this. And we're going to do the same thing that we did when tying in the woolly bugger. We're just going to grab this, lay it here, just come up, maybe pinch it, and then come straight down so that you can grab it, which I failed to do the first time. Got it the second. Now I'm going to wrap back a couple times, and I'm going to very gently pull it into position like this so that I have this little bit in the end to work with to wrap the body, or palmer over the body, I should say. So now we're going to bring the thread back up front to where we started, and we're going to grab our little piece of silver tinsel. We're going to tie in so that the silver is away from us, the gold is facing us. Going to tie in the gold on the side of the hook and then wrap backwards towards where we tied in the hackle, just like that. Okay. And you can just leave this. It should stay out of your way. So now we are ready for the dubbing, the body. Now, a little bit goes a long way. You're going to be very, very surprised at this. So you're going to see how much I actually take, or hopefully you can. This gray against gray on shirt may not be wonderful, but I'm just pinching just a little tiny bit like this, okay? I'll try to put it in front. You literally see just that little tiny bit, okay? And then take it and spin it in one direction. Let go, bring your fingers back, spin it in the same direction. And do that 3 or 4 times until it looks like this. It looks like a little noodle on the line. And then I can slide it up a little bit, grab some more, about the same amount, put it on the thread just under it, and do the same thing. Spin, let go, spin, let go, spin, let go. Doesn't matter if you go counterclockwise, clockwise, as long as you're going in the same direction and you're not doing this, going back and forth. If you're going in the same direction, then you're putting it on the thread. If you come back, and you go in the opposite direction, now you're taking it back off of the thread, okay? And I think that should do what we want, but we'll see. Um, we want to now make a couple of wraps in the same spot until we see the gray. Okay, now we want to go directly in front of one another, having a nice, small, thin body. Yeah, this is going to be enough material. And we want to keep going until about here, and then we want to kind of wrap back and then come forward again to get back to the thread. So now you can see we have about 1/8 of an inch of hook here. That's perfect. Okay. So now what we want to do is take the tinsel, okay, and we want to wrap the tinsel and we want to make a rib like we did with the woolly bugger. We want to go over in that one spot and then come under and then make a rib like this and then space it evenly next to each other 3 or 4 times, whatever ends up being on the hook. Like looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4 wraps myself. Okay, catch it and then come over a second time and then come over the third. And now I can transition and come over, wrap in the front a couple of times for those insurance wraps that I'm talking about. And now you can trim that rib off. Now what we want to do is we want to take this hackle and very gently, because you can snap this, very gently, we want to go over the same specific thing as the rib. Wrap it exactly the same way. So come under and just follow that silver with the stem of this feather. If you're a little in front or in back, that's perfectly fine. Right here, whoops, I'm gonna go in front a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to make one additional wrap just to have the additional hackle on the hook. And now I'll pull back and I'll come straight up and now I'll tie it off. And it's okay. You're gonna catch a few hackle barbules. It is what it is. You're gonna want to go over 3, maybe 4 times. And again, insurance wraps, pull everything back from the front, make a couple of wraps, and then trim all of that off like that. And I'm just going to trim up a couple of loose hackle barbules that were in the front there. So now I'm going to just pull everything back gently, not to stab myself with the hook. And I'm going to wrap over those butt ends just a couple of times, putting down a layer of thread. And I'm going to bring it back to where I tied in, just like that. Okay, so that's what it should look like right now. Hopefully that's in focus now and better. Now, this is where we're probably going to use the hair stacker for the first time. And if you don't have one, don't worry about it. I'll I'll help you out. I've got one. I'll send it around. So we want to get some elk hair off the patch. Based on the size 12, we don't need a ton, but we don't want to short ourselves. Again, once we get it stacked, we can always remove a little bit, but it's going to be pretty hard to add to it. So grab probably about this much. Again, you want to trim as close to the base as possible. And then we're going to just fish out all this under fur. There's a couple of ways to do it. They've got combs out there. Um, I typically just do this, kind of take my finger and flare out the fibers and get them that way. But some people will actually take a comb, a little mini comb, and comb all those secondary fibers out because they're not going to do any good. The only thing they'll do is soak up water. They won't. Uh, they won't help with the flotation of this fly. So now what we want to do is we want to take the hair stacker, and I'll probably have to show you this more in person, but you want it so that you have the end of the hair stacker like this. You've got the elk hair in your fingers like this, and you want to transfer, and you want to come in, and it's okay if you got a couple of loose ones here, that's fine. What you want to do is you want to put it in here, and you want to go around in a circle like this until you get all of the fibers inside, like this. And now that all of the fibers are inside, you can let go and just kind of tap them down a little bit. All right. That's the easiest way to not fight all those fibers. And you just take it, tap it on your hand or a table or anything like that. But I usually just tap it on my knuckle. It doesn't hurt. And then I angle it almost a 90-degree angle. Almost. But you can go 90 degrees, and I'm going to show you why. Because when you pull this out, all of those tips are lined up right on the end. Okay? It's built this way so that when you take it off, it can be at a 90-degree angle and you still can grab those tips. So we want to keep them as perfect as they can be, as is. So you want to pinch and then pull them out. You can set the hair stacker down and now transfer it back to your other hand, making sure you got a good grip. Okay. And now the tips are still lined up really good. I myself, I like to pre-cut and then tie in. Some people like to tie in and then cut. This is really going to be a personal preference. I don't think it very much matters. Um, I'm going to pre-trim and then put on. But for beginner sakes, I'm going to go ahead and tie it in where it's tied in, and then we trim it afterwards. Okay. Now, what we want is we want the wing to extend just past the bend of the hook, like so. All right. Because what's going to happen is they're going to flare up a little bit, and that's fine. So what we're going to do is just take it, and it's okay to pinch the hackle barbules. We'll straighten them out after, but you want to take it, lay it on top, take your fingers so that they kind of overlap the thread a little, because we're going to want to pinch the thread. We don't want this to rotate on the hook. We want it to stay on top of the hook. To do that, you come straight up, you come over, loosely come down. When you start to see it flare like this, you come up and you do the same thing. Come over the top, come down, and pull until you start to see it flare. Okay? Now, when it starts to do that, we're not going to put a lot of super tension on this because we don't want the thread to break, but we're going to put enough tension on this that this is going to flare a little bit. So I'm going to pinch really tight so that this does not move, and I'm going to pull down and it's going to flare quite a bit. And I know the thread strength, so I'm not pulling so tight that I break the thread. Okay? And I'm just kind of wiggling it back and forth, forward and backwards, to kind of lock it in. So now I'm going to come straight up and I'm loosening my grip a little bit so that I can keep the thread in the same spot. And I'm going to wrap 3 or 4 more times in the same exact spot, keeping that same tension, just like that. So as you can see, the L carrier is basically right on top, and it's not rotating. So I'm just going to make one more wrap like that. Now I'm going to lift up. I'm going to grab all of the material like this, and then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to rest the scissors on the eye of the hook like this, and I'm going to leave about a 1/16 of an inch of elk hair, and then I'm going to snip in one snip. So I'm pulling with my left hand so that these fibers are as tight as I can get them without pulling the hair off of the hook, and then snip in one shot, just like that. Get rid of the extra hair. And generally what you should be left with is just a little nub on the front, but you can see the eye of the hook. Okay? And now what I wanted to do is just take the whip finish, because we're done. We're not going to do a head and trim this down or anything. We're going to leave it just like it is. Take this and we're going to finish off right here as is. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then bring this knot down, pull tight. We're going to trim. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just trim up just a tiny bit, because it looks like I do have a couple of long fibers I really don't care for. But there was just a couple. The rest of them are fine. So I'm going to take one little non-compliant fiber. I'm just going to take my little needle applicator here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of head cement on the bottom of the thread. You may or may not be able to see this, but I'm just barely going to touch it like this. And then I just take the tip and spread it all the way around the thread. Now, what I like to do normally is take uh, pe a spare piece of peacock curl or something like that, just to make sure I've got the eye cleaned out. But I'm going to use a feather that kind of fell off, and I'm gonna use a small feather here to go ahead and clean the eye out just to make sure it's clear. And so from the bottom up, I take the stem and just stick it through the eye, and then take the other end and just kind of go back and forth a couple of times like this, and then pull it through. And that just ensures that I do not have any head cement in the eye of that fly. And that is the elk-haired caddis. This can be tied in multiple colors. You can do black, olive, white. You can use badger hackle instead of brown hackle. You can use grizzly. There's so many different variations, but this is one of my favorite basic patterns for trout. And I tie these all the way down from size 14 to as small as size 18. I'm sorry, size 12 to 18. So, once again, what do your flies look like? Are they fishy?